Hey, how's it going? Anthony Fro here of Great Sci-Fi. So today, something I wasn't planning on doing, but the universe spoke. So I've been doing these light gun mods from video games, and I did a couple of those. I definitely plan on doing more, but I'm also working on doing a smartphone filmmaking tutorial. But then when I was in the thrift store, as I go every couple of weeks looking for costumes or whatever, because my mind was in video game light guns, I found these. What the what? I'm like, what the heck are these? And what I'm finding about the video game light guns, which I love, is that they just fit your hand perfectly, right? So what's doubly exciting about these is I have no idea what the heck this is. So you guys have been very vocal with the light gun mods, which is awesome. So I tried to figure out what these were, but I couldn't. But then I thought, wow, let me see if you guys can figure it out. There's no brand name on this at all. And then there's like this unit where they plug into. So this is really like the only sort of clue that I have. There's no brand name, but there's this number, right? PL 1000. And bonus, I was like, oh, I'm going to turn this into like a communicator. So I guess I'm doing another light gun mod. It's just so cool. So if anybody knows what this is, right here I'm going to put a proper clean picture of it. You see, inspect, screenshot. And if you know, let me know what the heck this piece of awesomeness is. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and mod this. Let's hop right in there. All right, as usual, take a look and see what the heck we got ourselves into. So for this, I'm just going to cut off this cord. Hopefully this system isn't something that there's only one of them, because I just cut the cord. All right, first thing we're going to do is take this apart, just get out all the screws. I use one of those magnetized dishes so I don't lose the screws. Now I'm just going to take most everything I can out of the inside of this. There's not too much going on in these light guns, which is always nice. And then for some reason, you know, it has this tail end here where the cord came out. So now that it's flat, I have a chance to sort of dial in where I want my cut to be. So now I'm going through the inside, and sometimes there's pieces that move, and I just super glue those in so that they don't go anywhere. And now I'm taking my buzzsaw tool, my favorite Dremel attachment, and I'm just snipping that off roughly where I roughed out that line, and that's going to get me in the ballpark. So I checked that out, and yeah, we're getting there. So now I'm taking the sanding drum, and what I'm doing now is shaping it, right? So this gives me the chance to sort of contour it. So now I roughly check that with my thumb, and that's looking good. So now we're going to have to get into some Bondo. But before we do that, I want to put a cork, I guess, in that hole, and I want to add some weight. So I got my trusty lead torpedo fishing weights, and I just put 2 in this. I don't want to go too crazy. So what I do is I double check that it's not going to interfere with any of our screw holes, and I go ahead and I usually overglue these. My tendency is to overbuild, but I don't want these going anywhere. So now with a piece of scrap foam, I just made a little plug for that hole we just created by shaping that handle. Now I'm just massaging it into place with the glue. This is one of those things where you want to make sure you get it right the first time, because you don't want to have to rip everything apart. So I put a little bit of super glue in there. And what I'm going to do now is hit that with a kicker so that's dry and I know it's in the right place. So now I'm just going to put a light bead of super glue around the whole thing before I screw it all together. You know, just not completely covering it, but going around the whole perimeter. And now I put it back together. Now we got those screws in that dish that's magnetized, so we didn't lose any. That looks good. My little plug at the bottom is going to really work out nice once I put some Bondo on there. So let's put the screws back in. And before I Bondo up these holes, what I like to do is take my emery board, my sanding stick, and just sort of tooth up the area where I'm going to put the Bondo so it has something to dig into rather than just sliding off the surface. And now, I mentioned this in another video, something I started doing. I have a tendency with Bondo to get it in places where I don't want it. And it's a real hassle to sand off extra Bondo, and sometimes it'll screw up a design line. So what I've gotten in the habit of doing is I just put just a little rough application of painter's tape around the area so I don't get Bondo and everything. So here I'm just filling up these holes, and the tape, you can see all that Bondo would have been on the body of the piece. So that saved me a lot of sanding time. So now I let that Bondo cure, usually a few hours. I let it set overnight. And now I like my sanding sticks and my fine files to get this Bondo off and get everything sort of flush. So first I hit it with a file, and then I'm going to go at it with some sandpaper. But I really like the emery boards. Get that down, and if I can get it like this, see how that's just the dot? That's perfect. That makes me happy. So now with this, I'm actually shaping it, right? So be careful not to gouge out an area. And I'm just, you know, you run your hand over it and you can tell. And that came out pretty good, actually. So now more sanding. A lot of the work when you're taking these guns and you're modding them is you gotta sand. You gotta sand everything down. I've tried to, you know, sort of cut down that process, but it never pays off. It always creates more work. So after I sand, I take a Scotch-Brite and I like to go over the whole thing, and then that way if I missed any spots, that hits it. And then as a final, I take some fine steel wool, that's 3 fines, and just go over the whole thing, just to make sure I got a great surface for accepting paint. Now I just take some isopropyl alcohol and clean off the whole thing. I like to use that because it evaporates very quickly and I can get right to paint. So I'm going to do my first coat of black primer. This coat is important, especially when you do Bondo, because now it'll make these areas pop that need a little bit of love. So I take the spot putty, and anywhere where there's a crack or a seam that I sanded is still wanting to pop through the paint and read as a seam, I just take the spot putty. You can't go heavy with this stuff, just light coats and just put it around. And now that it's dry, I go back to my emery board, my sanding stick. These sanding sticks are just really great for the handheld guns and any sort of prop or thing that you're working on that is a handheld size. So now I'm being careful with that contour that I created. And I'm just going through and sanding the whole thing smooth. And I go through the various grits of sandpaper, and I do the final pass with a fine grit, usually around a 220. More alcohol, and now I'm going to do my base coat in a gloss black, right? Because I have some ideas. So now I have this gloss black, and I want to anodize a lot of these parts. So there's all these, you know, built into the mold parts. So we're going to spend a little bit more time here on the masking. So before I get started on this, I took some time to just think it through what I wanted to mask. And now I'm fortunate enough to have this second gun, so I can use that to make my templates for the masking. So now I take some straight pieces of masking tape where it's a straight line, but there where I have those curves, I'm going to refer back to the second one. Then I can get in there and the knife and cut. I could do this on the painted one, but then you risk messing up your paint job. And so, you know, that was about 20 minutes later. I have the whole thing masked off. And I want to do a red anodize, but because it's black, first we got to hit it with this silver. So now I have the silver, and I'm removing all of the tape because I had a happy accident with my last build. When you do the anodized coat over the black, it's just really subtly there. And now, while this paint is still tacky, I'm gonna do some weathering. I'm just gonna chew this up. Usually I would do this with toothpaste and paint over it, but I found this technique by accident, again, a lot of happy accidents, is while the paint is still gummy, I can go in there and chew it up a little. So now we're gonna anodize it, right? This is a magic step. Look at that. And right, even though it's a fresh coat, that chewed up look that we created really blends nicely. And here it is with the anodized paint. Looks good. So now I'm going to do a dry brush. And what that is you just take a little bit of silver metallic, a very, very dry brush, and you just kiss the areas where, you know, you think the paint might rub off. Usually it's on the edges or someplace where, you know, it might be brushing against clothing. And the hardest part about this is knowing when to stop. It's a very easy process to do. The hard part is sort of saying, okay, that's good. And I think I stopped in a good place there. All right. So now I'm going to take the rub and buff, and what this does is it just pops a little bit more those edges. So right with the brush strokes, we gave it sort of a worn look. The rub and buff gives it more of like a shine. Now I'm just going to take a little bit of gold rub and buff. There's some components inside the side of the gun, and I just want to hit those with gold just so that they're just a little different. Very subtle, but these things matter. And now we're going to hit the whole thing with a clear coat. And now that that's all sealed in, I'm going to try something here that I've never done before that I'm kind of excited about. I'm going to mask off the handle, the grippy part of the handle, and I'm going to hit it with a coat of Plastidip. Plastidip is a rubberized truck bed coating, a liner. And usually we use that with foam because it's flexible, but this is actually what it's used for. And I really like that, especially the way the light hits it and then the way that it feels in your hand. Now we're gonna weather it as a dream sequence. When I set up the camera, I have no idea what happened here. I must have hit a setting or the lens had some schmutz on it. But here we have, it looks like a dream sequence. But we're doing a basic weathering. Just brown acrylic, a little bit of black, super, super watered down. You want to go through, get in all those cracks and crevices, and the magic happens when you rub it off with a paper towel. So now I even go back with a little more black because I wanted to get the underside there, and that looks good. Now another clear coat, and this is the final seal of clear coat. And let's see how far we took this. That's clearly a toy. And now, you know, that's a pretty serious looking weapon. Very happy with the result. Can't wait to find out what the heck this is. And here's the beauty shots. This is a really interesting gun, and I think what really makes it pop is that we spent that time to think about and mask off all these components of the body shape. Really nice result. Well, all right, I guess we got a series now, right? How to mod your old video game controllers. Now, really happy with the way this came out. Glad I tried a red. I usually go blue, gold. One thing that was kind of like right in front of me the whole time that is cool is I really like that I Plastidiped these handles. It just, you know, reflects light differently, and for the person using it, it just has a better feel. The Plastidip, that's pretty much what it's made for, but, you know, I came across it, I came to know it by using it as something to seal foam with. It's still rubberized and flexible, and then you can paint over that. And then, you know, why not use it for its intended use? So yeah, that just feels good. Very happy with the way this turned out. Now I'm going to show a picture of what this looked like before we worked on it. And, you know, as of right now, I'm calling this the Mystery Blaster. I'm hoping that one of you out there can identify what the heck this is from. Like I said, I found it while I was at the thrift store. I think I paid like $4. So, pretty cool. Very excited. And like I said, it's a series now. So there'll be more to come. Probably not as soon as this one came, but it was just so serendipitous that I was at the thrift store and then this was there. You know, it's funny once you start thinking about things, how the universe kind of starts to slide in that direction. So, I think we should fire it up. Let's see what the Mystery Blaster does. All right, feels good. All right. no buttons on this one, so I guess it's just a trigger pull. I'm scared. All right, here we go. Whoa! Okay, we're gonna do it again, right? Whoa! Nice. Well, as always, I hope you found this video useful. Please like, share, subscribe, leave a comment. I do love to read the comments, and be sure to sign up for the email newsletter. And remember, I'm just here to help make sci-fi. And recycle your old video game controllers too.